你好大的胆子！杀我，我天圣脚必反。
这人抓不得！
不好了！皇帝也在圣教暗查的眼线。
将那狐狸和狮子拿下，带回大理寺。
按律，满门抄斩。
From this, Qin Mu reached a terrifying conclusion. The Nine Ghost Sect was not acting recklessly. This was a carefully planned operation. And most likely, there was a traitor hidden among the high-ranking officials. When they finally arrived at Deer Mountain, Qin Mu's prediction proved correct. The mountain was completely deserted, and the black mist began to thin. For a brief moment, everyone felt a sense of relief. But then, a strange chant echoed from the mountain peak. This was not the familiar voice of the soul guidance spell. It was something different. Something far more unsettling. Qin Mu immediately ordered the group to stay where they were. "I'll investigate alone," he said quietly. Moving silently up the slope, he soon discovered something that made his blood run cold. Hidden on the mountainside was a bizarre sacrificial altar built entirely from bones and human skulls. Surrounding the altar were 13 Taoists, both men and women, chanting in unison. Brilliant runes flowed from their hands and surged into a massive demonic statue before them. The statue was monstrous. It had 8 arms and 4 heads, each head bearing 3 glowing eyes. The air around it pulsed with an eerie, corrupted energy, and the ritual had already begun. The spell they were using was none other than the divine dispatch rune of the ghost-shifting deity, a forbidden divine art that once belonged to the Grand Mountain Sect, a sect that had long since been wiped out. Now it seemed they had returned. Not only that, they had formed an alliance with the Nine Ghost Sect and the Immortal Corpse Sect, all for one purpose: revenge. Qin Mu immediately understood something far more terrifying. The timing of this attack had been calculated with deadly precision, exactly when the young scholars of the Imperial Academy arrived in Lizhu. If these future elites were wiped out, then the next generation of imperial officials would vanish entirely. Only a handful of powerful individuals had known this plan in advance, which meant only one thing. A traitor was hiding among the highest ranks of the empire. Realizing the catastrophic danger of the demonic god's awakening, Qin Mu rushed back and revealed everything to his group. He proposed a single, desperate plan. They had to destroy the altar before the summoning was completed. Fear spread through the group. 13 practitioners of divine arts stood guard over the ritual, an overwhelming force by any standard. Yet they all understood. This was their only chance. Xi Yunxiang spoke calmly. The Grand Mountain Sect specializes in spells, not close combat. At once, Qin Mu gave his command. Then we fight at close range. We strike before they can finish their incantations. One by one, the members of the group stepped forward, showing their resolve. Even Yuking Hong looked excited. This would be the very first true battle of her life. Qin Mu quickly laid out the plan. He would charge in first and break through the front. The others would loop behind and destroy the altar from the rear. Once everyone took their positions and observed the terrain, Qin Mu gave the signal. Hu Linger drew the enemy's attention by riding the Qilin dragon past the side of the altar, pretending to flee. One of the Taoists sneered, assuming it was nothing more than a wild beast. But before he could even finish his sentence, A blade of light flashed through the air. Qin Mu had already arrived. With a single, flawless strike, he severed the Taoist's head with his signature combat skill. At the smaller sacrificial platform, Qin moved like lightning, killing 2 more Taoists in rapid succession with blinding arcs of sword light. One of them, a woman at the 6th directional realm, tried to resist using a powerful magic ornament and a horsetail fly whisk that scattered thousands of deadly threads through the air. It was useless. Qin Mu engulfed her in a storm of sword light, cutting her down where she stood. The moment she fell, Qin Mu turned toward another target who had just begun forming a spell. Without a single breath of delay, he joined his fingers, condensed his vital energy into pure sword light, and drove it straight between the Taoist's brows, killing him instantly. On the opposite side of the altar, the Qilin dragon assisted Yongku in slamming a female Taoist directly into the demonic statue. She staggered upright, trying to gather her vital energy. But Qin Mu's sword flashed again, slashing straight across her throat. Chen Wanyun arrived a heartbeat later and finished her with a final thrust, blood spraying across the altar stones. At the same time, the wolf slave leaped into the battle. He sprang onto the head of the demonic statue and swung his twin demonic blades in a deadly arc. Yu Qingheng stood on his shoulders and unleashed countless flying swords, forming a rotating drill that tore straight toward the Taoists below. One of the Taoists tried to resist with a white battle banner and serpentine red runes. But Yu Qingheng's sword array pierced straight through his defenses and crushed his skull. Then, a shadow flickered. Si Yunxiang appeared like a ghost behind another female Taoist. She formed a strange hand seal and struck. The force of the blow was terrifying. In a single instant, every bone in the woman's body shattered. Chen Wanyan was stunned by the overwhelming power Shi Yunxiang had just displayed. Before he could recover from the shock, another Taoist tried to flee from the battlefield. Chen Wanyun immediately leaped forward and hurled a yellow Joss talisman. The talisman exploded violently in midair, but the backlash threw Chen Wanyun himself backward instead. At that moment, Yunku rushed in to block the fleeing Taoist and unleashed the 5 grand platform seal with both hands. The Taoist responded instantly, releasing a burst of lightning from his palm and forcing Yunku to retreat. The Taoist sneered proudly. So this is all the young disciples of this era can do. Before he could finish speaking, a blade pierced through his chest from behind. The Taoist's eyes widened in disbelief. Qin Mu had appeared without a sound. The blade went straight through his heart. The Taoist collapsed instantly, dead on the spot. Even as his body fell, his lips trembled as if trying to praise, or perhaps curse, the terrifying footwork technique Qin Mu had used. Qin Mu calmly wiped his blade clean against the edge of the altar. By then, the rest of the battlefield had already fallen silent. All the Taoists had been eliminated. Some corpses were impaled against the demonic statue. Some hung torn on broken battle banners. Others had been crushed into shattered remains. Every single death had come, swift and brutal. Si Yunxiang silently examined the fallen enemies. A deep sense of shock settled in her heart. Qin Mu had killed nearly every one of them with a single strike each. Even among divine art practitioners, such combat power was almost unheard of. Qin Mu gave his next command immediately. Clear the battlefield. Destroy the demonic statue. But before they could act, A violent surge of blood-red light and lightning erupted in the far distance. A thunderous explosion tore through the sky. From within that storm of blood and thunder, a gigantic demonic god slowly emerged. It was taller than the mountains. It had 4 arms and 4 legs, massive curved horns, and its entire body was wrapped in roaring flames and crackling lightning. Qinmu's expression darkened instantly. The Grand Mountain Sect had succeeded after all. They had summoned a true demonic god from another realm. The mere gaze of that being shattered everything in its path, warping the land with terrifying pressure. The situation turned critical in a heartbeat. Qinmu shouted without hesitation. "Change your clothes. Disguise yourselves as Grand Mountain Sect disciples, now!" They quickly seized battle banners and talisman treasures from the fallen Taoists. There was no time to hesitate. Qinmu then ordered the unfinished demonic statue to be bound to the back of the Qilin dragon. Once everything was secured, he led the group southward at full speed, fleeing the black mist, fleeing the surging river, and fleeing the shadow of the awakened demonic god. Chen Wanyun was stunned when he witnessed the true power of Shi Yunxiang. Shocked by her strength, he immediately leaped toward another Taoist who was trying to escape and hurled a yellow talisman at him. The talisman exploded mid-air, the shockwave slamming into Chen Wanyun and throwing him backward. At that moment, Yunku rushed forward to block the Taoist's path and unleashed the Grand 5 platform seal. However, the Taoist retaliated with a violent lightning strike bursting from his palm. Just as the enemy grew arrogant, believing he could withstand the attacks of these young cultivators, Qinmu suddenly appeared behind him. With a single swift motion, Qinmu drove his sword straight through the Taoist's chest. The enemy widened his eyes in shock and fell lifeless in an instant. Shi Yunxiang could not help but admire Qinmu's refined movement technique. Afterward, Qinmu calmly wiped the blade clean against the stone altar. By then, their companions had already wiped out all remaining Taoists. Some bodies were impaled on statues, others hung from banners, and some had been crushed into nothing but pulp, every death swift and brutal. Shi Yunxiang inspected the battlefield, her heart trembling when she realized that Qinmu had killed most of them with a single strike each. She finally understood that his combat power was far beyond ordinary limits, even among divine practitioners. Qinmu then ordered everyone to clean up the battlefield and destroy the demon god statue. But suddenly, a crimson glow mixed with thunder erupted in the distance, followed by a deafening explosion. From the violent light emerged the towering figure of a giant demon god, taller than mountains, with 4 arms and 4 legs, massive horns, and a body surrounded by raging fire and lightning. Qinmu immediately realized the truth. The Great Mountain Sect had successfully summoned a demon god from another realm. Everywhere the demon god's gaze passed, destruction followed. The situation instantly became critical. Without hesitation, Qinmu commanded everyone to change into Great Mountain Sect disciple robes. They grabbed banners and talisman treasures and prepared to withdraw. He tied the unfinished demon statue onto the back of a Qilin dragon beast, then led the group southward, away from the black mist and the surging river. After traveling a long distance and finally escaping the fog, they saw something terrifying behind them. The mist had formed a giant lid, sealing off the river like a massive dome. Beneath it stood a colossal gate that looked as if it connected directly to the realm of death. Qinmu silently wondered, How many people could possibly survive the destruction of Lizhou? Suddenly, he stopped and warned everyone. An army is coming. Yongku briefly hoped it was the imperial army, but Qin Mu quickly corrected him. No, it's a rebel force. Soon, they saw dozens of flying warships, countless battle flags, flying beasts, and a massive mixed army of humans and giant monsters. Every step the monsters took made the earth quake. The rebel army passed close to Qin Mu's group. One of the generals noticed them and ordered his men to investigate. A cold-eyed officer descended from the sky, stepping on golden lotus symbols with every step. He accused them harshly of fleeing the battlefield and declared they deserved execution. Qin Mu, however, remained calm. He explained that they had successfully summoned a demon god to support the battle, and that only 6 of them had survived out of 13. After some thought, the general aboard the warship decided to spare them. He even praised their achievement in summoning the demon god, but demanded proof of their identity. Without hesitation, Qin Mu activated his vital qi, causing true rune symbols to glow on the demon statue. The general immediately confirmed that it was indeed the authentic spell of the Great Mountain Sect. Afterward, General Xioi ordered that they be sent to Heavenly Wave City to perform another demon god summoning there. Qin Mu and the others were stunned. They had just escaped one disaster, only to be thrown straight into another. General Xioi explained that the Great Mountain Sect had made enormous contributions to the war. He then assigned an officer named Linden to escort them. After saluting the army, Linding led them away. He greeted them warmly and showed great interest in their abilities. He praised the Great Mountain Sect for successfully summoning a demon god and believed they still had a bright future ahead. Qin Mu returned the compliment, then, wearing a sly smile, asked about Linding's cultivation level. Linding answered honestly. He was at the peak of the 7-star realm, but had not yet broken into the celestial being realm. He then spoke about the chaos of the world as an opportunity for growth. When the world falls into disorder, he said, countless techniques and divine arts are born from the clash of great powers. Under the pressure of life and death, true progress is forged, just like what happened to all of you. Chen Wanyin and the others felt deeply moved by his words. For the first time, their perspective shifted. They began to understand the true value of techniques and spells they had once underestimated. They finally realized that even simple spells, such as soul guidance and command runes, which once seemed ordinary, could produce overwhelming effects when used at the right moment. Their effectiveness on the battlefield had opened their eyes completely. Even the most basic spells could shake massive conflicts like the battle at Lizhou. But this realization also brought fear. Linden was far more experienced and powerful than all of them. If he became even slightly suspicious, their lives could be cut short at any moment. Even if they succeeded in summoning another demon god, there was still no guarantee they would survive the return to the capital. It felt as if every road led only to death. Qin Mu silently began to calculate whether they might have a chance to eliminate Linding through a coordinated ambush, but deep down, he knew the odds were far from certain. Suddenly, bandits launched an attack. The bandits were strong and led by a divine martial practitioner. However, Linding remained completely calm. With a single thunder technique exploding from his palm, he obliterated dozens of bandits along with their leader in an instant. The display of power was terrifying. Qin Mu was stunned. He finally understood that a sneak attack would be absolutely useless against someone with Linding's level of martial skill. From that moment on, they had no choice but to follow obediently. Along the way, Qin Mu casually asked about General Xiaoji's background. Linding explained that Xiaoji had once been the crown prince and now sought to rebuild his fallen kingdom with his own hands. Before long, they arrived at Heavenly Wave City, a magnificent city built atop towering mountains in the center of the surging river. Enormous waves smashed endlessly against the cliffs below. Rebel soldiers stood on high alert along the walls, watching the forces of the Eternal Peace Empire on the opposite riverbank. The air was heavy with the tension of an approaching great war. Linding then introduced the city's chief guardian, Long Jinan, the young leader of the Dragon Rider sect.